Nation being held Monday, September 21st, 2020 via Zoom in accordance with Governor Whitmer's executive order allowing for such during the pandemic. The meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Hart.
Here.
Abraham.
Here.
Kermuller. Let me see her. Latash.
Here.
O'Donnell.
Here.
President Davison.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That takes us to item 1.3, the approval of the agenda. Do any board members have any amendments or changes they would like to make to the agenda?
I don't.
All right, the agenda will be approved as it stands. And that takes us to item 2, the Ferndale student representatives from UHS and Ferndale High School. So, Janae, would you like to address the board?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Janae Ingram, and I am the senior board representative for University High School. And I'm just here to let you know a few things that's been going on our school this month. UHS has not let the current circumstances of our work into school groups and clubs. Although there are many ways to continue Dungeons and Dragons and Chess Club virtually, the school has still made a way for a few of the other clubs. Newspaper Club, for example, will meet every Monday at 3 p.m. over Google Meet starting September 14th to discuss the monthly article submissions. Art Club will meet every Monday at 3 p.m. as well, starting September 28th to discuss a potential socially distanced art supply pickup to allow the students to create artwork from home via Zoom or Google Meet. NHS will hold their first meeting of the school year September 30th at 12 p.m. to discuss how volunteer hours will be handled this year with the conditions that we are currently in. Our volleyball team is having their first high school game this season tomorrow, Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020 at Ferndale High School. I know how happy the sports teams are to be allowed the opportunity to continue the season, and although I'm unable to attend the game tomorrow, I'm wishing our volleyball team good luck. I was also unable to attend the Popsicle with Principals event this past Friday, which was the 18th from 12 to 2, but I heard it was a blast. Teachers and administrators were in attendance and got a chance to meet some new and returning students and families. We also gave away sunglasses because UHS is just that cool. Similar to the pop-up event this Friday, there will be a homecoming pop-up for all UH students on Saturday, October 10th, 2020. There will be more info about this pop-up event in the following weeks. Student Council has also been working on organizing events that will allow the community to be safe while also allowing students to enjoy themselves. They've come up with the idea to start a virtual workshop for all students, but also aimed at new incoming students. The virtual workshop will resemble something like a mentorship ability. It will allow students to receive advice from other students and build bonds with people that they have not met. I know personally I was really nervous when I first started high school, so I cannot imagine how my first few weeks of freshman year would have went virtually. It's really hard to form bonds and make friendships like this, so I feel like that would be really helpful. Also, similar to the virtual workshop, the Student Council is also starting a student tutoring group. Like the workshop, the tutoring will be peer-to-peer work, but academically focused instead of social level work. And that's all I have to share for today, but if anyone has any questions, I can answer them for you.
Did you say that the art club, you're looking for supplies or no?
No, not looking for supplies, just trying to figure out how a socially distanced art supply pickup will work.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, yeah. So any students interested, we're trying to plan a day for us to come up to the school and pick up our supplies so that we can work on Google Meets together.
Okay, and you're gonna do your projects, and then how would you display them?
We have a section in our Google Classroom that we can insert different artworks inside of, but I think that you have to be inside of the Google Classroom to see the artwork. So for the school to see, I'm not sure how that worked yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Janae.
Thank you.
And is Kai with us?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, Kai. Would you like to address the board?
I actually, I can't find my Google Drive right now, my doc. I had sorry, I've been having a really rough.
It is okay. Why don't you just tell us how the school year is going so far for you?
Well, for me, it's been a little rough, to be completely honest, but I'm hoping that it picks up from here. And I have very supportive teachers, so that's good. And I've been reaching out to them. I've seen a lot of kids go to the school for socially distanced learning using the Wi-Fi, and I think that's a very good thing to have and provide for students here. But yeah, it's still a bit of an adjustment for a lot of students I've heard. I've been talking to upper and like in lower class, they're having a little bit of a hard time still keeping up. But we're hanging in there, I think.
Yeah, Kai, thank you. Thank you for sharing off the cuff without your notes. It's been such an adjustment for so many students and staff as well. I'm glad to hear that you have really supportive teachers, and hope that you can lean on them heavily to make the best of our situation right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, that will take us to item 3 on the agenda, the presentation from GMB Architects and Clark Construction regarding our 2020 bond project updates.
Well, we'll welcome Tom from GMB. Tom, you'll have to help me with the pronunciation of your last name, please.
Van de Green.
Okay.
Kind of like green, the color.
All right. Tom is one of our architects with GMB. We also have Doris. You know, I've never pronounced your last name either. Gross, I assume. Or,
yep, you got it. Doris
I got it.
Gross.
All right. And then Becky Timberlake from Clark Construction are here with us. So I'll share my screen, Tom. The purpose of today is kind of to give you a little bit of a sneak peek on some of the bond work that's taking place. Obviously, we're still very early on in the design phase, so things will change, but we want to at least allow the community to kind of see, and the board to see kind of the direction that we're headed in. You know, with construction, things come up that are unexpected sometimes while you're going through this, but so things aren't finalized. I want that to be kept in mind, that schematics these are really rough drawings. And we're still working through with each building on kind of finalizing the designs. So Tom, I'm going to share my screen and pull up the playbook.
All right. Are you able to pull it up, or am I pulling it up? You have it.
I'll pull it up. We want to make sure no Zoom bombers. So
okay.
in control. Sorry.
Perfect. Perfect.
Just say next slide.
Yeah. Next slide.
Yeah. Oh, like now. Okay.
All right. The first couple slides here are just simple things, just kind of explain the process to everybody. We work through a pretty standard process of industry where you have a programming phase where you develop what are you going to build, develop the criteria that everybody wants to see in the project. Then you work through schematic design where you do some sketches. Design development works on all the systems in a building in more detail. And then it gets into the construction documents where preparing things that can be bid. Then you move into the construction, that follow-up. We are kind of in the second and third phase of this stuff in most of the project, as Danya was saying. So we're a little early in the process, but we wanted to, just kind of get it out so you can see where we're headed. Next slide. This slide you can look at on your own if you want. It just has more, it's the same kind of concept, just shows some of the details and some of the milestones that come in some of those phases. All right, next slide. Actually, the next two slides we're going to come back to. Becky is going to go through these two slides with you after we go through the projects. She's going to kind of give you a sense of schedule and budget where all the projects are. So this slide represents a little bit of the guiding principles we've been developing with your administration, your design teams, things that hopefully help us understand what's important to Ferndale with these projects, the things that should guide us in all the projects. Just real simply, you can read those yourselves, but some things that we've been requested to follow through on. And all these projects starting to create district standards so that we start to get some coherence in all your buildings and things are done where it looks like, there's a standard and things we're doing regularly in the district. Number two, promoting equity amongst all the different students in the district and helping them have collaborative environments that are appropriate for all of their needs. Three is focusing on student needs so that everything we're doing is basically enhancing student-focused spaces. These spaces are for students and making sure they're the best for their needs, not necessarily adult needs, but more what's important for the students. And 4 and 5 kind of tie together a little bit, but making sure the projects are sustainable, energy efficient, so that as we're renovating your projects, they reduce operational costs and make them less expensive to run, kind of a thing. And 5 kind of ties into that a little bit with materials and making sure that things are durable and a low maintenance in terms of an upkeep. This is a little bit of a living document. It may grow a little bit as more things become evident that are very important from the district. But these are important to kind of give us guiding principles on things that we're working on. All right, next slide. Basically, Early Childhood Center will be the first component I'll talk about. We go to the next slide, and you'll see the floor plan, basically, of the building. In the far left, well, first let me tell you, the Early Childhood Center has 2 major phases for it throughout the bond. We're in the first phase right now, which is primarily dealing with security at the building. There's another phase which will come in subsequent years in the bond in a later series, which deals with the remaining funds for renovation and things. This first phase is only what was necessary for the renovation of security. The bottom left-hand corner is your office. We're going to renovate that space. And one of the things we're looking at is trying to make, again, some of those standards. And so in every office, we're looking at creating a secure buzz-in process where people are worked through a buzzer to let them into the office, into a secure suite. Every visitor will be controlled so that you're entering into the office through a controlled sequence. Adding additional windows in there so the receptionist and the staff in the office can monitor people approaching the building, an important security component. And then working that the office area has the needed things for visitors. The work areas and conferencing are all up front, and that suite can control visitors, not needing to bring them into the building unless they're part of a teaching environment. Also, when we're going through this, we're going to be branding those entries so they feel unique to Ferndale, and that every building in the district, as we start touching those offices, has that flair. And we're again, very early on that, developing what that might look like, but hopefully every office has sort of a Ferndale brand to it. In the work on this, we did pull the conference room down in that area. We are moving a few offices. The middle of the plan shows kind of that orange area. We're moving some of the student services offices over there. So we had the ability to bring some of the conferencing, et cetera, up front. And then in that sequence as well, we were able to move some of the sensory rooms back into the building, which allowed us to also gain 1 additional classroom for this building, which will hopefully help with some future needs. That's the basic scope. Again, there were things adjusting primarily to create that secure entry. The next slide should show, I think, an image of the desk. And again, this, as Danya was saying, is very early. The plans are a little more developed, and we're in about the middle of the process there. This desk is just starting to be some of those more visual details we're working on. But again, very early, was one of the first things we only looked at it once with your team. But again, it's looking at creating a brand And so what you're seeing here is the reception desk that has a feature wall developing a logo and maybe the building name on it, some wood developing, potentially it wraps into the ceiling, et cetera, very early on, but trying to create that unique brand. And then in the reception desk, even potentially some awesome imagery of ferns we're thinking of as we're you know, some of you were talking about, potentially some natural inlays in that desk very early, but just some of the thoughts that might be a part of that. And again, you can see a little bit of the image showing increased visibility, more glass to allow for the safety of seeing who's approaching the building. This image would be similar to the other buildings we'll look at. We'll only look at it once today, but it's this kind of a feel that would be in each entry. And that should lead to the next slide, which moves us to fuel building. And the next slide will show us a little bit of the plan for that. This is an overall plan, just to give you a little bit of a sense of the building. We are, again, this building has about 4 different phases for it. Right now, we're in the phase that's dealing with security again at the secure entry, creating that new secure entry, and then the majority of the interior renovation all happening in this phase. So we're hitting this building fairly substantially right now with the work that's slated for it in the bond. There'll be a follow-up phase in subsequent years for paving renewal, and then some classroom furnishings in another phase, and then the final phase for this building will be an addition for a STEM space. So the piece that we're working on right now, again, is very similar to the discussion we had with you at Early Childhood Center, is creating a new secure entry. The office is in the same location, but going to be fairly substantially remodeled and renovated. Again, the same buzz-in sequence, controlled entry of visitors needing to come into the office and having, no access to the building unless they're released. Receptionists move to the front so they have good vision of the entry and people approaching, and developing that work area and conferencing in that secure suite. Again, the same branding will occur to make that a Ferndale feel as you walk into that main office. This project also has an enhanced entry canopy, and we'll get to that in a minute here when I show you some images, but that canopy will be creating a little more of a grand feeling of an entry, and a little more, the entry I have right now is fairly low and dark, and we're going to increase the visibility of that. Inside the building, a lot of stuff going on, and touch on a few of the major things. The art and music areas are going to have some upgrades with finishes. The cafeteria is going to be adjusted to reduce acoustical. It's a very loud space to get some acoustical treatment. There's some restroom renovations throughout the building. The gym will be renovated with some flooring upgrades and some new bleachers. We're going to try to get some window light into the space. Then we're going to add some lockers in the classroom areas. There's not enough lockers for the student use. There's some new roofing on the building, for the most part, the entire building. And some mechanical systems upgrade, new fire alarm system, and then a staff workroom lounge upgrades with some finishes in there, and then some miscellaneous doors, et cetera, throughout the building. We're also looking to potentially outside bring into this phase some of the playground renovations, upgrade of some of the equipment, and a new monument sign out by the road, which identifies the building. That's a kind of a broad brush of the scope for this building for this phase. So the next slide or two we have will show you the entry that we're looking at developing, a new entry canopy there. The existing canopy is about, it comes down about 2 or 3 of those windows lower. We're going to take the canopy off. It's very dark. It wraps around the building. Still going to have enough canopy substantive size for kids to be under it if they need to wait for parents picking them up, but pulling it back so there's a little more light in there, raising it up, getting all new glass into that media center component, potentially some new window shades up on the top, sun shading, new logo, building name, and then creating all those columns with some cast stone base and brick columns, more of a traditional feel. As right now they're just kind of a metal post. The next slide shows you a similar view, just a little more straight on. And then we're going to, as you can see, the building at the end, the doors into there will be the secure entry. You'll walk into those doors and you'll be forced into the office, that whole security sequence. But we're going to raise that up as well inside there. So the roof will be raised over that to create a little bit of more of a grand entry, something that is a little bit updated, contemporary-wise in terms of some look as well. I think we have 1 or 2 more slides. This is a slide looking what it would look like if you were coming out of the building, the new entry, and looking out that canopy towards the drop-off parking area. And then the next slide is an image of potentially at night We're looking at putting some nice linear lights in the canopy to give it a good glow and a nice look at night. I think that is it for fuel. This is just an image of the high school. The high school project, the next slide will show us the plan. The high school is broken into many, many projects. There's almost one almost every year for the entire bond. The first project that's part of this series that we're working on is the pool area remodeling, the renovations. So that component, the one component is the very south pool is going to be maintained as a competition pool space. And that space is going to get, again, this is a little more conceptual than the others, I will tell you, because this one is staggered a little bit, and Becky will get into that when she explains the schedule for you. Fuel and the Early Childhood Center are a little bit ahead of schedule. This one is following a little bit behind. So these drawings are even a little more conceptual. But the basic intent of the south pool is a total renovation of that for a competition pool space. We're going to be replacing all the tile finishes in the pool itself and on the deck, giving some new starting blocks, new timing system, sound system, new scoreboard, lane lines, a lot of those finishes all redone in that pool, including the seating mezzanine with some new seating and upgrades so that feels refreshed throughout. So that space will look quite a bit different when we get done in it. To the left of it, currently there's one locker room that serves the south pool and one locker room that serves the north pool. We're going to adjust that so that there are two locker rooms, since we're going to have one pool, that those gets all renovated inside their new lockers and finishes, etc. But both those locker rooms then will have access to the south pool that we'll be maintaining. Then, excuse me. Then the north pool is going to be totally adjusted. We're going to fill that pool in and create one floor area where that pool was. And we're going to renovate that to become a student fitness area, kind of a student activities, very multi-purpose kind of a space for heavy physical activity. We're going to have the first two bays starting from the left are going to be primarily fitness equipment, more of weights and things for training of equipment and building body strength. Then the middle bay, we're looking at putting in a turf area for training and some more running and ropes kind of things on this artificial turf component. Then the right two bays of that space, the idea is that would be more of a resilient floor, give you some multi-purpose use for any kinds of running activities, soft on the feet, whether it might be aerobics, wrestling mats can be rolled out in that space, a lot of different kind of activity to the right. So those are the three components that space will be developed to have. And then we're going to fill in the mezzanine, that's kind of that aqua color, where the seating is currently for that north pool. And that will be created to be a mezzanine for cardio equipment, be up in that area that's open to this multi-purpose space fitness area below, but have a view down into there from that mezzanine. There'll be that little orangish burnt area on the top. We'll have some mechanical equipment, some storage for all this equipment needs, and then a couple of restrooms to serve immediate needs out of the fitness area as well. Then up above that burnt orange area, which is kind of the dashed lines show you that. It's called your corrective gym, I think, right now. It's primarily where wrestling, I believe, occurs. We're going to renovate that space entirely to be kind of a student collaboration learning lab. And we're hoping, we'll show you some images, the goal will be to get some windows into there. It's a very solid structure. That whole thing, if you're familiar with it, is built out of cast in place, reinforced concrete. And so it's not going to be an easy task, but we're looking at getting some windows in there to look down from that corrective gym area, which will now be a learning lab, into that fitness area. Some of our images will show you that. So I think the next slide, Daniel, will show us an image. We have a few images kind of showing you different. Yeah, you can skip this slide. This is just a more of a same thing of the floor plan. So this image is looking from the side that would be the floor that has the multi-purpose flooring where mats could be rolled out. It's more of that mat area. And we're looking back towards the entry on the other side. What you're seeing is a screen. There's been a request to put a screen in there, a fold-up screen, a drop-down screen that would divide that. So if there was heavy activity on this side, then the other side where the turf is, you can just see a little bit of it to the right there, a person standing on the turf working with something, equipment, and then the other side would be the equipment as well. that those two areas would be on the other side of that screen, just in case there was some separation needed. Then on the top left there, you're seeing cardio equipment on that mezzanine I was describing. In the very background are the two windows that we're hoping to get out of that new collaboration space that will look down into this space, create a very new and exciting feel for this space to be very, very different than what is in there right now in that old pool. Next couple slides just show some different angles of looking there. This will be standing up on the mezzanine where the cardio equipment is, looking down, just a conceptual idea of some of the equipment that might be on that space. There'll be a stair and an elevator lift up to this space. From the stuff to the left you're seeing would be that multi-purpose space, that fitness area. The next slide, so a little more of a close-up on that, that mat area. Looking towards the left is the mezzanine, seeing the turf just beyond there. We're looking at having some, some educational components in there as well. This is a view inside that learning lab, which would be the second floor. That is actually, because the pool is 2 stories basically. This will be a multi-purpose kind of a learning lab for the students. And it will look, hopefully those windows we're looking at would look down into that pool area. The next slide. This would be an image looking from the mezzanine. If I was standing on the mezzanine looking back towards the entry into this fitness area, shows those 2 windows that would connect to that, that collaborative learning lab up above. The next slide is, we just actually talked about this for the first time in the last meeting. Again, very, very conceptual, but an example of where we're starting to develop the monument sign. We're putting in this phase a monument sign at the road for the upper elementary. And the idea is that it has to the left, we're showing something that will be developed as a standard Ferndale logo and again, a brand for out of some cast stone and brick that would be the same in every building other than the building name. And then to the right, a digital display board that could be operated from the office to send messages. Again, very, very early in this discussion, but we wanted you to see we were just working on that. And again, hopefully those will be the same same sign other than the building name and the building address for every building where we put in the new monument sign. And then that's the end of these, I believe, Danya. The next slide is the end. The last thing I did need to touch on for you was the new lower elementary that we're working on. That process is underway. That's been very exciting. Your team has been a lot of fun to work with. We are just in the very, very beginning stages of that process. We're in that programming phase, defining what this elementary should be, what should it have, what are the components of it, what are the spaces, quality of those spaces. So we're in the very initial stages of that. We've gone through some 21st century educational discussions. These are the trends that are out there in new schools. Which of these are appropriate to Ferndale? Which things should we include? So we've had some of that initial discussion. And then we took that on some tours, and we've toured for the last month and a half, 6 different buildings across the state, and looked at different examples of the way people are doing it. Everybody does it a little different, but getting some sense of what other districts are doing in new elementary, especially lower elementary. And we've finished that up actually just last week. And then Friday we had a review of all those buildings with your design team and got a sense of what are the things you saw that you liked and didn't like, what's appropriate for Ferndale. So we're developing that kind of a program list. And in the next 3 weeks or so, we're going to be meeting with some of your departments, if you would call that, of your elementary, some of the program leaders, and digging into those with them individually of the criteria they think specifics that ought to be in the new elementary. And then we'll be working soon after that to prioritize that and come up with a written program that defines this is what we're building. So we're kind of in the middle of that process. It's exciting, but that'll go on for at least another month yet. I think, Danya, that's all the things we needed to touch on. Obviously, there are questions. We can go back, but that's all of the stuff I had. We should go back to the 2 slides on schedule. I know Becky was going to give us a little bit of a explanation of that.
Yes, good evening, and thank you, Tom. The presentation was wonderful. So just to touch on schedule, Tom went through fuel and early childhood, upper elementary school, and you could see that we were slightly ahead in the renovations or the design process of those. We've actually gotten a set of drawings called schematic design. We've put an estimate to it. So we are tracking through the first design phase on budget on those 2 projects. We are scheduled to get the design development drawings this week, and we will do another estimate just to make sure that through the design development and the things that have been added, we're still tracking on budget. And then we will do a final estimate right before we go out to bid, which we will go out for bids in November, just to make sure that our bids are, you know, reflective of where our estimate is coming in. And then we will be in the bidding and procurement phase from November for fuel and ECC all the way through June. And then the construction, the renovation on those projects will take place in the summertime. So we'll start as soon as the kids head off for summer vacation, and we'll have those renovations wrapped up before they return, before the staff returns for the school year of 21. And the high school pool renovations that we just looked at are slightly behind. We are actually just received the schematic design drawings last week. So we are into our first estimate for that phase to see where we're tracking on budget. And from there, we'll, you know, either continue forward or maybe make some decisions based on where the estimate comes in. We will plan on bidding that project out after a couple more design estimates. In February, March timeframe, we'll be in the bidding and procurement phase, and we will start the fitness center construction in like September, October. We will work on that construction through the school year, having that ready for the summertime. And then we will start the existing pool, the competition pool renovations sometime in March when the pool is done being used, so that we can turn that back over early August for the next swim season. So that is all, and this is just a little bit more detail on kind of when we're getting the schematic design and design development drawings for each bid pack, the first 2 bid packs, and then when we'll be going out to bid. We'll likely be coming to the board meeting in probably January or December for the first bid pack contract award recommendations. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to add a couple things. First thing is that the new elementary, the initial plan is to start that project sometime in the fall of 2021. We didn't really touch on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is when Tom was talking about upper elementary, originally we were supposed to redo all the parking lots as part of this first phase. But, you know, as part of the fluid design process, we meet every week and we look at what would be best for our district and what's best for these projects. And when we looked at the parking lots, they're actually not in very bad shape at this moment. They, you know, they have a few more years of life left in them. And the thought is twofold. One is right now we're in the design phase, finalizing the documents. We have a strategic plan that requests that we review the safety of the drop off and pickup of the students at that building. And so we really want to wait till we're back in swing and have students in person so that we can do a full analysis of that so that we can make good decisions and incorporate that into the final design. The second thing, actually there's 3 components. The second thing is we're not exactly sure where that STEM lab addition is going to go. We don't want to redo the parking lots and then realize that that STEM lab would be in a perfect spot where we just put in a new parking lot or a renovated parking lot. And the last thing is our thought process is we're doing a lot of major renovations inside that building. We're going to have a lot of heavy equipment out there this summer. Why put in a new lot just to have it beat up with the construction equipment? So that was just one of the things that we thought would be better to put off to a later date. And then if we lump that together with other parking lots from other buildings, we'll be able to get better pricing on the lots. So just one of the things that goes into like the design process on a weekly basis. Sorry, that's it.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, GMB and Clark. We're very excited, and the elementary build is going to be obviously one of the more significant projects, and Diana Keefe and her team have been meeting regularly with us. Staff members have been joining in on those school tours, and then as Tom mentioned, in the next 2 weeks we're going to be meeting with each department, whether it's fine arts, phys ed, technology, classroom, classroom setup, formation, kindergarten teachers to understand how their needs are different. But that's going to be the next big chunk of work. Any questions while we have them with us?
Is there going to be the HVAC is okay? I know that's a big conversation with COVID. How is the HVAC?
Yeah,
Are you asking if it's going to be renovated?
Well, I guess, are they good enough for what the situation is right now with COVID and to return? And will they be good enough? And will they be renovated in the future as well? Yes.
Yeah, they will be renovated in the future. Currently, we had our control contractor put in a system where we're able to go by building and increase the outside airflow into the buildings. We can do that very quickly and adjust it as needed so that we can maintain temperatures in the building. Obviously, as the days get colder, we'll have to scale that back a little bit, but our goal is to try and bring in the maximum amount of fresh air. The other thing is we're also working to secure MERV 13 filters as long as our equipment can handle them. There's a long lead on those, so all the districts have put in orders, so that's what we're working towards right now. And the equipment will be completely renovated at upper elementary. We are putting all new classroom vertical unit ventilators in, and the majority of the rooftop units are being replaced. So that will be taken into account in that project.
and that equipment is part of this first phase at Fuel.
Are there any questions from the board or comments regarding what's been presented here from GMB and Clark?
Not for me, but it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to hear about an additional classroom in the FECC. That sounds great. Adding some more capacity to our early childhood center. Well, thank you very much, Tom and Becky and Jamie as well.
Thank you.
We appreciate all the work that your companies are doing with our district to make sure that the students' needs are going to be met in a really exciting and forward-thinking and fiscally responsible way. So it's really good work, and it's going great. So thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 3, public comment on our agenda tonight. This is a time for public participation in the meeting. The Board of Education intends for the public to have many opportunities to address the board and administration of the school district. These include emails and phone calls, face-to-face meetings, various types of community meetings. I just lost I just lost what I was reading from. Hold on. We welcome individual and group input into the important issues that confront our schools. As noted in the agenda, this is a meeting of the school board open to the public. We want to provide fair and impartial guidelines for participation as required by the Open Meetings Act, and to encourage transparency and equal treatment for everyone in attendance. We also recognize that an effective meeting facilitates better decisions and promotes openness by allowing more people to stay for the full length of the meeting. To meet these goals, please note the following. We ask that you identify yourself and contact the district if you would like follow-up on your comments. You're welcome to contact Dr. Bazzi's assistant, Kimberly Shepard, at kimberly.shepard@ferndaleschools.org. Each person will have the opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Comments or questions should be directed to the board president, and Sandra, as the vice president, I think you will give an indication to speakers when they are nearing completion of their 3 minutes. The period of public comment is for both non-agenda items and issues that are on the agenda. Public comments will close at the end of this part of the agenda. In the event that the number of people wishing to comment requires longer than 30 minutes, public comment will be temporarily postponed after 30 minutes, and time will be added to the end of the meeting for those who did not get a chance to speak. Complaints about staff should be made outside of board meetings and should follow the applicable board policy. Please contact the superintendent's office if you have any questions regarding this item. The board cannot respond to complaints about employees in public. This is meant to promote fairness to the staff person and the complainant. The Ferndale Public Schools community acts with great civility toward one another. Please help us to maintain that tradition during public comment. So if you would like to address the board, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself and take turns.
Can I go?
Certainly.
Okay, so I'm Kat Senefels. I'm a 7th grader at FMS, obviously. And I just have a question. Why didn't you guys ask us what we wanted to do for school? Why did you ask the parents? Because we're the ones going to school, not the parents.
So we don't, this is typically public comment. It's not like a public discussion. But Dr. Bazzi, would you like to comment?
Yeah, Kat, I'm gonna follow up with you. I'll give you a call tomorrow and follow up with your question. I will just quickly say that same type of survey we sent to parents on the return to school, we sent to students. So we'll work on that. We are working on another survey for the future, like that will include both parents, families, as well as students. So I'll give you a call tomorrow and follow up a little bit more in detail. Because it's a student, I have to respond.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, we're also at a level 4, so we're legally allowed to go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat.
Okay, I guess I can go. Is that all right?
Go
I'm
right
Jody
ahead.
Berger. All right, I'm Jody Berger. I wrote what I'm going to say so I don't wander too much. I'm a talker, so I want to make sure I kept in my minutes. I'm a parent of a 7th grader at Ferndale Middle School. A parent volunteer since 2009 and a substitute teacher at Ferndale High School for the past 2 years. I'm also a member of the Ferndale Diversity Committee since its first year. And I was just really surprised by the sudden news I heard at the FIN meeting through the public library the other day, that there was a new, albeit a wonderful sounding equity development team. I guess that's what it's called. But this was the first time I had heard of it, and this is something that I'm really into. This is my passion. I'm a veteran English teacher, and I've developed and implemented multicultural, anti-racist, social justice curriculum and extracurricular activities at Avondale School District for close to 30 years. I have retired a couple years ago, but it's still my passion. I spent much of this past summer delving into Black Lives Matter curriculum that was offered by Black Lives Matter and other Black voices to make me a better teacher and a better person. So I guess it was odd hearing about this team, but not hearing about how anybody interested could go about being part of it. Now, I'm busy, I'm not saying me, but I'm just saying I didn't hear anything about it being open for anybody. It was just a shock that it was all new and all of a sudden there's a team of members. So I have questions for the board. The diversity committee was, and the equity development team is a board initiative. And I was just wondering what is the purpose of the equity development team? And do you have a mission and goals for the equity development team? And if not, how long do you anticipate it will take to develop them? You see, I'm concerned that this new team will fall prey to the spinning wheels and quicksand slow death by committee. That is the reason why I don't like the word or even being on a committee, quite frankly. And we knew that as a diversity committee, we knew that. And I am happy that we did get some things done. But the first couple of years, we had a really nice, wonderful consultant from Oakland Schools help the meetings, but there definitely was more talk than action. And I'm really worried that this new team will fall prey to the same. Let's see, I lost my place. So yeah, going back to what we did get to do, my favorite was our community film and conversation that the diversity committee hosted at the high school auditorium when we watched The Hate You Give. It was a very moving, multi-generational time. It was amazing. Also, we have been looking at data and diversity in the curriculum, and this is a big passion of mine. So
you got about 20 seconds left.
Okay, so I just want to make sure with the death of George Floyd, all the momentum, that things don't fizzle out. And I'm really worried that another committee, when we already have a committee that's been working, and there's got to be some sort of teamwork or something. Don't let it fizzle out. I feel like it's now or never with the momentum of what's happening, and I expect to see change. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Can I speak?
Absolutely.
Am I able to share on my screen or no? No, okay. Hi, I'm Alex Muller. I'm a parent of a 6 and 4-year-old in the Ferndale school system. And I wanted to bring the topic of online safety and computer literacy in our primary grades to the board today. I was able to access a variety of, let's say, R-rated images through my second graders' Ferndale School's Google account. The kids' Google account settings are controlled by the district to the point that I, as a parent, cannot add my own parental settings or block websites that I find inappropriate. They do employ Google Safe Search, which attempts to block explicit content from web searches and YouTube, but just because something isn't recognized as explicit by an algorithm doesn't mean that it's safe for young children to access. Many of the links that the school and individual teachers are providing, particularly in places like Bitmoji classrooms and Weebly sites, are outside of approved apps within Clever. These often have links that go to websites that collect personal information that don't necessarily follow the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and they link out from ads to places like Amazon. There's not a built-in ad blocker on their Google accounts, and my child has asked twice for a credit card already this school year after being prompted by websites that he arrived at via links provided by school. You are allowing access for young children to the internet, largely unsupervised by an adult in the same room, without a full understanding of risks or adequate protections or education in place. I was extremely dismayed to hear that there's no media teacher this year. According to your own media curriculum, at the end of second grade, children should know how to use a mouse and keyboard, how to be safe online, and how to use the computer for research, among other things. Yet you have no one to teach these skills in a year where all students are on the computer all day. Things like keyboarding and typing use muscle memory that needs to be taught early. In 2020, to not have a media teacher or be incorporating these skills into a curriculum is frankly crazy to me. Yes, these kids are digital natives, but they still need to be explicitly taught these key skills that will make them successful and keep them safe in a digital world. My requests today are twofold. Number one, the district needs to tighten restrictions on Google accounts or allow parents to set their own controls on the accounts above and beyond what the district has in place. And number two, the schools must institute at the very least a digital and computer literacy essential class once a week, preferably with a dedicated media teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Hawk, and I've got 2 kids in the district. I'm going to start a timer here just to watch myself. First of all, I know it's controversial, but I'm very grateful that the district's gone virtual this year. I'm very grateful that our kids are getting into a routine. I think a lot of schools are going to have to send their kids home in a couple of weeks. So thank you. I say that while knowing it's very hard for students and for many families. I'm a member of the Ferndale Diversity Committee, and I've been involved in the committee since its founding 4 years ago. And I salute the board's statement on racism as a health crisis, and I salute anything that is aimed at improving the inequitable conditions that still exist in this district. Like Jody, I was quite surprised, as were many others, that an equity development team would be formed without input from a group of people that has, with the superintendent's support and the board support, developed a mission statement, general goals, SMART goals, and has achieved many things over the years. We've collected data about numbers of Blacks and white students affected by disciplinary measures, data about numbers of Black and white students in the Montessori program and in the honors program. We've made changes to the volunteer form for schools that clarifies the vetting process and ensures that the superintendent automatically calls all caregiver whose records are of concern. We've requested updates on DEI initiatives from all the buildings in the district. We've provided extensive edits to the district's new code of conduct. We never heard back whether those were implemented or not. Because of overwhelming evidence indicating that honors programs favor white students, we encouraged and supported the development of more pathways into the honors program. We've provided suggestions for curricular changes. We established a traditions and holidays observances project. Since some of our most important work has involved asking difficult questions and engaging in difficult conversations, we are wondering what the role is of the board and the district administration within this new committee, and to what extent it will be allowed to ask difficult questions, to what extent will we be allowed to continue to ask the questions we've been asking. And we're also wondering whether there will be members on the equity development team who have the independence to challenge the superintendent and the board on difficult issues. The only way that we can move forward is to continue to have very difficult conversations. Thank you very much.
Crystal Brock, parent, volunteer, substitute teacher, coding club creator. I am also on the diversity, equity, and inclusion team. I am also PTA vice president of upper elementary. I wear many hats, many. So how do you currently envision the purpose of the Ferndale Diversity Committee? Are there any specific district goals that apply to the work of both groups, and what are those specific goals? How do you envision the relationship between the two groups? And now, even though I said I wouldn't really lend my heart voice to these conversations anymore, I am also an alumni of Ferndale Public Schools. And I was a very proud alumni of Ferndale Public Schools. You're looking at a person who was a SET, volleyball. I did track. I started in junior high, our first newspaper. I have many firsts. And again, like I said, I've worn many hats for this district. And encountering students was dismayed when I heard about a couple of things. I was in a play with one student. She let me know what she thought about what happened to the theater department. I come to be a part of an interview team. That student had some pretty, questions and different things they had to say about the theater department. And it kind of saddened me. And then some other things saddened me as well. So when a call was made for those to help with diversity, equity, and inclusion and be the objective eye and the objective voice, we put our necks on the line, no matter the risk, no matter the conversations, no matter the difficulty, we decided to do that and to be that. So to, I think, leave out an entire group, and when I say group, I don't just mean the diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, I mean the community as well. I can imagine being a person who's PTO or PTA, and there's like a whole list that that you've been planning with your team of courageous conversations. And Mr. O'Donnell, I was very dismayed when I heard that you thought that we have not been actionable. Do you know how hard it is? And I'm thankful that everyone is virtual because that gave me a broader reach. I am part of the parent advocacy team, if you have not been able to tell. So some of my words are mine and some of my words aren't mine. But again, I speak from an objective voice and objective eye, no matter what, no matter friendships, no matter anything. I'm gonna be real about it. So it was dismayed when you didn't think we were actionable, when that comment came from somebody that said that this team is gonna be more actionable. From reaching out to parents, having conversations with parents, having conversations with a parent today to find out about UHS. It's not easy to get those survey numbers to increase. There's been tons of outreach, especially from the parent advocacy team, And I'll leave this last bit. I know that UHS was not possibly part of the bond, but I'm a little dismayed that they're not part of the plan. Is there going to be any renovations? And I guess I'll have to email in regards to that, any renovations to UHS, because those plans look awesome. If I was a student, I would love some of those renovations. And to those students, you are amazing. Trust us, trust me. Us parents are, you know, Kai, whoever else was on who spoke, you guys are doing amazing jobs. We are also adjusting to this too. And I am with Alex on a lot of that in regards to when you've been the one to teach media or do anything like that. Because when you're teaching your child everything, including the computer, including all of that, including reading, writing, and I am thankful, and she knows who I'm talking to, for the additional help that I have received.
Thank you, Crystal.
May I speak?
Certainly.
My name is Jasmine Coles. I am a junior representative for UHS, and I have 2 ideas for food for thoughts. So one of them, when I was speaking to some of the new freshmen and sophomores and transfer students, they were thinking about traveling outside of either the state or besides Wayne State. So with our school, we are very highly connected with Wayne State. We are in partnership with them. But also, I believe there's more out here for students to see. So educationally broadening their visions, I believe that it would be a nice idea to try to get them outside of what they're comfortable with, that these are not their only options. A lot of them said they did think about going to other schools because they provided those options. So I thought this would be a good idea to present to you guys. And also second, workshops. So Janae had mentioned us doing that with the freshmen and the incoming students. I am also a part of the student council and NHS. So seeing their ideas and different point of views, I believe workshops for us as a community could work as well. I do see how workshops have affected other groups, such as the Board of Education, and I would like to see that more within the community. And that concludes what I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaslyn. Would anybody else like to address the board tonight? All right, well, that will end public comment for this board meeting. I'm sure we'll be following up with quite a few people. Would like to say that the diversity committee has been an invaluable voice within our school district, and I expect that that's going to continue. Has been a very active body and has contributed a lot to our district through formal involvement in the strategic planning process and all kinds of things. With the strategic plan being really getting off the ground, and the resolution, the anti-racist resolution, also getting off the ground, I think the idea, the hope is that the Equity Task Force will continue to involve the voice of the Diversity Committee. The Equity Task Force is largely going to be driven through the administration, because we've charged the superintendent and her staff with really making really actionable changes. So I understand the concern that that there'll be more talk, or of talk and not action, but I want to assure the community that the Equity Task Force is about action and really elevating the district's work in terms of making those changes that the board has charged the superintendent and her staff with doing. So the community, the diversity community, and the community at large will be invited to attend. I believe it's being envisioned as having like quarterly meetings where the community is invited to participate, to hear what the Equity Task Force is doing, to engage in discussion and collaboration and give feedback. So I'm hopeful that that Equity Task Force is going to take the work that the district is doing and really drive it. It seems the district has done a lot of work. The diversity committee has done a lot of work, but this is a structure that's going to make sure that it happens. And that's what the board is expecting from the administration as that gets off the ground.
Mike, just to take 1 minute of the time just to share some information. I think what caused some of the confusion was the name of the committee, making it seem like it's another committee that doesn't work in partnership with the diversity committee. Much like schools have a improvement team, right? The district did pass the resolution as well as the strategic plan that was created by community members, a representative sample of community members. So when that resolution came out with very direct goals, very direct kind of directives, as well as the strategic plan, those are charges that employees of the district have to make sure that those things are delivered. So we're a small school district, and so they're right. The work of equity can't fall on one person's shoulder. So if we want to see curricular changes, we have to work with curriculum and instruction. If we want to see discipline processes change, we have to work with school administrators. So it made it sound like it's an outside group when that's not the case. It's internal staff members working on the directives that have been charged, right? The board said we direct the superintendent to do X, Y, and Z. So although we value community input and community volunteers, it's as staff members, it is our duty to make sure that we come through on these goals. And that's our intention to do so. The at-large meetings will be open to everybody. This information was first shared at a public board meeting at our committee of the whole, so it wasn't at the Fin network. And again, it's still in very exploratory stages, like we are just starting. So, you know, could we have shared that earlier? Yes, you know, in hindsight, obviously, so that it wouldn't have come as a surprise. But we'll discuss it more, you know, with the diversity committee. We're meeting on 9:30, and I'll work with the committee members who I've worked side by side over the past 3 years. We'll continue to have that dialogue to clear up any issues. But one thing I want to make clear is it will be open. When we need feedback and input, it will be open to everybody. So again, I don't want to get in a back and forth, and generally we don't comment, but I just want to make sure we'll be sure to connect.
Okay, that will take us to item 5, the consent agenda. 5.1, the request to approve minutes of the special meeting from August 6th, 2020. Item 5.2, the request to approve minutes of the regular meeting of August 17th, 2020. Item 5.3, the request to approve bills and accounts for the month of August. And item 5.4, the request to approve resignations, leave of absences, and new hires. Do any board members have any items they would wish to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda will stand as it is. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Did somebody Make a motion.
Oh, yeah,
to-
I'm sorry. Is there a motion to move the consent agenda?
I move.
Moved by Jackie. And
Second.
seconded by Sandra. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the consent agenda is approved. That takes us to the action agenda items for the night. Item 6.1, the request to approve the committee of the whole meeting schedule for the 2020-2021 school year.
So Mike, these are the dates that have been proposed for the committee of the whole schedule for this year. Generally at the September meeting, we officially approved those dates so that they're available to the public. They will go on virtually until otherwise noted.
Is there a motion to approve the committee of the whole meeting schedule for the 2020-2021 school year?
I move.
Moved by Sandra.
Second.
Seconded by Jen. Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
With 6 yes votes, the committee of the whole schedule for 2020-2021 is approved, which brings us to item 6.2, the request to approve Music First, the adoption and purchase of Music First.
Mr. Jameson, we're going to hand it off to you.
What information does the board need?
I'm sorry, it's a lot different when I can't just talk to you at the copy room like usual. So just for background, just a summary of what we went over last week and then the final, final recommendation.
Absolutely. So like we discussed last week, obviously, in a virtual environment, we're concerned about having the additional content that most teachers have in terms of the content provided through Accelerate. That's what it's called, right? And so we reached out and said, especially between that issue and just the fact that what we normally do in a performance-based classroom, we can't do as much. We were hoping for some additional support to give us some additional tools to be able to go in more non-performance areas dealing with sight reading and ear training and music theory, as well as a particularly powerful tool of the Soundtrap digital audio workstation, which should facilitate a lot of online collaboration for small ensembles of the students, as well as potentially, I don't know if it works that well with 40 or 50 students, but theoretically, it might be possible to use that as well to do some of those virtual performances as well without having to do all the audio and video editing. I don't know if that works, but that's the very, very short version of what Music First will allow us to do in this virtual environment, and be some extra tools if we end up being back to person in face-to-face second semester, depending on how that all plays out.
Is there a motion to approve the adoption and purchase of Music First?
Move.
Moved by Jen.
Second.
And seconded by Jim. Any questions or discussion?
I feel like we got a lot of info last week, so comfortable. Looking forward to hearing the violin again in the house.
Roll call, Ms. Shepherd?
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie, she's on mute. Dookie,
She may
nod
have-
your head, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go back to her. Hart,
Yes.
President Davison,
Yes.
is Sandra still on mute?
There's an emergency at home. She's gonna have to leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. With 5 yes votes, the request to approve Music First adoption and purchase is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item 6.3, the request to approve the instrument bid package selection.
Okay, good evening. On September 3rd, we released our music bid. The bids were due back to us September 16th. We received 5 bids. One was for band instruments only. 2 of the bids were for all instruments, both band and orchestra, and 2 bids were for orchestra instruments only. Of the bids that related to the band instruments, our highest bid was from I probably won't pronounce this right. You can help me, Elin. Volkwin was the highest bid at $43,630 for band instruments. Woodwind and Brass, their bid was $42,184, although they did not bid on all instruments. There were 8 band instruments that they did not bid on. So if they had bid on all, they would have been the highest bid. And then our lowest bid was actually Washington. When we looked at their bid closely, they had bid on, we had put in 2 alternatives for bass clarinets. They actually included in their bid both of the alternatives. So once we took one of them out, Washington was the lowest bid at $41,842.85 for the band instruments. So we are recommending, after Elin and his other music teachers have reviewed the bid, they felt that these instruments were appropriate for what they were looking for and of a quality that they were looking for. And so we are recommending that we select Washington to purchase the band instruments. We then received 4 bids. Of our bids, 4 of them included orchestra instruments. The highest of those bids was, now see if I get this correct, Baroque at $14,375. The next highest bid was Char at $14,032. Volkwin at $12,566.89. And Washington was the lowest at $11,417. When we released our bid, though, we as part of the bid, we did stipulate that we would not necessarily take the lowest bid. There's some other things, especially in this COVID environment, that we were looking at, including the possibility of delivery of the instruments in a timely manner, as well as the type of instrument. So I'm going to turn it over to Elin to discuss the orchestra instruments.
Right, so I'll just share with the board in general, and Nancy kind of alluded to this, is that I actually sent her a list of, I think, about 15 different vendors, 12 to 15 different vendors, and we only got 5 back. That's a reflection of just the current environment right now. That, for example, none of the Michigan-based vendors bid, and many others outside of Michigan as well, because their cash flow is so low right now, they simply can't afford to place a bid and then have to wait potentially months for the manufacturer to deliver the instruments. And then, not with Ferndale, but some places tend to wait another several months before the district pays the vendor. And so that would be a significant cash flow issue for a lot of companies. So a lot of them were not able to bid. At any rate, I think the question that is at hand here, specifically with Washington, it was an easy thing because they were the lowest bid. They bid exactly the instruments we were looking for, open and shut. With Shar, it gets a little more complicated because we are recommending that we go with the third highest bidder, which is obviously not necessarily the norm. Rationale for that is the two vendors that came in lower were both offering Sherl and Roth instruments, which are largely mass manufactured instruments, basically. And because one of the things with string instruments, and I know some of the people on the board have string instrument playing kids, you know that they have to be professionally set up. Once they're manufactured, they can't just go straight to the player or to the kid, whereas band instruments generally can. Orchestra instruments need to be professionally set up, the bridges readjusted after they get shipped, so on and so forth. And the vendors that came in lower are not really known string vendors, whereas Shar is. Arguably, Shar is the biggest and the best string vendor probably in the US. They just happen to be based here in Michigan, which is a nice bonus. So we're still kind of doing business locally. They are both vendor and manufacturer, whereas with the other two vendors, Sherl and Roth is the manufacturer, and then either Volkwines or Washington Music is the vendor. And we really don't know what kind of service we get if there's any problem with those instruments. Whereas with Shar, we do. We literally can call our contact up and say, hey, we've got a concern with this instrument, we need to get it fixed. And they would be able to address that. So we feel, even though it's more money, we feel very, very confident that going with Shar is the safer bet in terms of making sure that we're good stewards of potential bond money and taxpayer money. Happy to answer more specific questions, but that's the broad stroke of why we're recommending Shar versus the two low bidders.
I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion to approve the instrument bid package selection?
So move.
Moved by Jim, seconded by
Second.
Nan. Any other comments or questions?
Just a comment, just appreciate that you took your time out, Elin, to come here and explain it to us. Thank you.
Absolutely, that's the gig, no problem.
Yeah, I appreciate the detailed explanations.
Usually too detailed when it comes to me.
Yeah, seems good. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd?
Mueller?
Yes.
Latash?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Ibrahim?
Yes.
President Davison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the request to approve the instrument bid package selection is passed. That takes us to item 6.4, the request to approve the reduction in ABM custodial staffing.
Yeah, we talked about this at the committee of the whole last week, but since the start of the pandemic, ABM's been unable to maintain the quantity of custodial support that's needed per contract. They're supposed to maintain 24.25 FTEs of custodial support. And so each month we have to ask them for certified payroll and go through the whole process. And we're not always in agreement, but we settle with them on what the credit should be because we're not paying for services we're not getting. So now that we have our learning labs, we're going to set the number of custodial staff that they need to maintain by contract and also what our monthly credit would be. So we work with our attorneys at Troon to develop amendment number 1, which will set it at 16 FTEs until the end of the learning labs. When we come back to in-person instruction, then they will be required to go back up to full staffing. So we're asking the board to approve the superintendent to negotiate amendment 1 with ABM.
And again, to be, just as a reminder from last week, our hope would be to be fully staffed. It's due to employment issues right now. The workforce is depleted for workers in this trade. So again, we're just doing this to mitigate us having to go back and ask for a refund every month. So I don't want anyone to think that we're actively trying to reduce custodial. Since the pandemic began, we haven't been able to be staffed. So Jamie's spending hours on the weekend reconciling their payroll for us to be able to get the money back that they owe us. This will just take that out of the table. And then if they're fully staffed, they get to keep proportionally what they deserve.
Is there a motion to approve the reduction in ABM custodial staffing?
I move.
Moved by Jackie,
Second.
seconded by Anna. Any other questions or discussion?
I just have a comment. Just to back up what he had said, I will say that in Troy, we're having the exact same problem. And they actually had parents come out and they were like, I don't know, marching around the board office. They were mad about something. And the custodial staff went out there and was handing out applications for employment, saying, if you're so mad, we really need some people to work for us, which I thought was really appropriate because they were mad because, you know, we haven't posted an appropriate cleaning schedule yet, but they are having so much trouble hiring people. So it just backs up what you're saying right now. I just wanted to reinforce that.
Okay, roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Camilla,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the request to approve the reduction in ABM custodial staffing is approved, is passed, which leads us to item 6.5, the request to approve the adoption and purchase of CTE pathways for marketing, business administration, and engineering courses.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you're having a good night so far. Thanks for addressing or allowing me to address you with the proposal. The proposal for CTE pathways and the following proposal for marketing textbooks, they're separate amounts because the money will come from different pots. The marketing books will come from the vocational funds, whereas the CTE pathways purchase will, if approved, will come from the COVID funds. But they're really kind of tied together. Just a little bit of quick background. In order to stay in compliance with Michigan CTE regulations, our marketing textbook has to be within 5 years from the date of copyright, and the current book wasn't. So Charlotte Oliver, the Ferndale High School marketing teacher, did a textbook search last year and came up with Burroughs as the best option. And then part of that textbook search process uncovered CTE pathways, which gives the teacher access to over 150 online textbook resources. So in the current environment that we're in with remote learning, it kind of seemed like a logical addition to the marketing book program. So then kind of as we got started with the 2020 school year, we realized that University High School did not have a current marketing textbook at all. They were using teacher-created resources for 100% of their curriculum. So I come to you asking for approval to purchase 2 classroom sets of Burroughs marketing and 200 licenses of CTE pathways, which will allow students and teachers access to online resources for marketing, business, and engineering courses at both University High School and Ferndale High School.
They're on the agenda as two separate items, but he did the presentation for both of them at once, which is good, Tom.
Every now and then.
Okay, so these are agenda, we'll do agenda item 6.5 first. Is there a motion to approve the adoption and purchase of CTE pathways for marketing, business administration, and engineering courses?
I have a question actually before we move to approve.
Sure.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Did we use the rubric that we've used in the past that Midwest Equity has provided when we review curriculum, just to ensure that we're equitable in the textbooks that we choose?
No, I don't believe that the rubric was applied to this. So we'll table this until next month, and we will use the rubric.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so
Thank you for that question, Jackie.
thank you. Agenda item 6.5 will be tabled and will be re-reviewed. And agenda item 6.6 will then be tabled, tabled for review as well. That brings us to action agenda item 6.7, the request to approve the Ferndale Public Schools extended COVID-19 learning plan overview.
All right. With the recent legislation that came out from Governor Whitmer, schools have to recertify their learning plan monthly as a way to reevaluate whether to return to in-person instruction or virtual learning. So each month we'll have to recertify a plan as well as send it to the state of Michigan. Some things that they want us to ensure that we have in our ECOL plan is educational goals, which is different than the first plan that we submitted. So to have specific goals as it relates to a benchmark assessment. That's why, as you can see, we're starting the process of NWEA testing with students to meet the requirements of the recent legislation. Also, the legislation also asks us to include things like assurances in terms of how we're delivering technology to students, how we're ensuring that students have wireless accessibility, and things of that nature. So the plan that we're resubmitting looks very familiar to the plan that we submitted back in September. Back in August, in addition to the educational goals. I'm gonna let Johanna Marekna speak to this a little bit.
Okay, good evening. Danya, are you gonna pull it up on the screen or do you want me to?
I can pull it up, yeah.
Okay. So like Danya mentioned, we need to recertify as a district once a month with assurances and with educational goals. And assess our ability to reopen on a monthly basis. So what we have is our ECOL plan, our extended COVID learning plan. We have included assurances that we will benchmark assess our students as is required, how we will be delivering virtual instruction. You can keep going down, please. And how we are going to consult with our nurses who've been provided by Oakland schools. So our plan includes a learning plan narrative that describes what we've done so far and that we've decided to go virtual or remote currently. And then the following parts focus on the plan with an emphasis on equity for our students while supporting our staff. The next part of it is about our educational goals and our quality evidence-based assessment practices. As we read through this, it says we believe data can provide guidance for adjusting curriculum and instructional practices across grade levels, schools, and districts. However, we will not use benchmark assessment data to make high stakes instructional decisions about individual student learning, because we know that students are under stress from COVID experiences, and we don't want to make high stakes decisions on data that may be skewed because of students' individual experiences. We will, however, if you keep going down, use that as part of a powerful practice to make sure that we provide each student with what they do need. Our goals will be based on the NWEA. The requirements for the eCall are that we have benchmark data for our K through 8 students. So our K through 8 students will have a performance goal in reading and ELA, goals to improve from fall to spring. Same thing for mathematics, improvement from fall to spring for all students. This will also help, as a side note, with the PA 306, which is a law related to 3rd grade reading. So that will give us some data for that as well. The next part is how we will instruct students, or modes of instruction. The 2 links that are linked there are the same documents that the board approved at the first meeting. So there's a link to our preparedness and response plan, and then also a link to all the internal district logistics and how we're providing that instruction. So we're planning for virtual instruction. There's some discussion of what we did to plan for virtual instruction, and a little bit of a narrative about how we developed learning support labs during the building closure period. The next part of the plan is about our academic standards. Definitely focusing on social emotional learning, and then going up Maslow's hierarchy from there of basic needs for students. Assessment and grading. We have a system for delivering summative assessments, formative assessments, feedback for students. Those grades are available to parents, legal guardians on MyStar. So this portion of the plan is not particularly different from how we normally communicate grades to students through our student management system, MyStar. Similarly to when we are in the buildings, there's an expectation for all teachers that they have current grades, that they inform parents and guardians if there are any concerns regarding a student's grade, and finally that we will send out report cards to parents at the end of each marking period like we normally do. Regarding our technology plan, we have 2 parts of it. Most of it is written in our preparedness and response plan and our return to learn logistics. As you know, we've passed out thousands of computers or of Chromebooks to students. We've provided internet access codes at the board's suggestion. And we have also provided learning labs for students who need the time in school with support to complete their work, as well as to have access to Wi-Fi in the schools. So our technology plan is focused on making sure that every student has access and every student has the equipment that they need in order to be able to successfully complete those lessons. For our students with identified special needs, our special ed students are coming into our buildings for services. So that's a little different than for the rest of the population. It's to meet the needs of those students individually. we are required to provide them a free and appropriate education. So we are doing that by making sure that we have them in the buildings receiving those services that are in their IEPs, and for some of them, their 504s. Our special needs students will continue to come to the buildings and attend learning labs as well. The next part. Yep. Okay. We have addressed in the preparedness and response plan the needs of our vulnerable population, of our early childhood students, dual enrollment, AP courses, how we're making sure that students can get to those experiences. How we're also monitoring the fact that we may be closed, but other programs may reopen. And so we have contingency plans to make sure that we'll still be able to bus students to those programs. We expect that probably some of the many programs that we participate in might open at different rates. So we have plans in place for students to receive transportation for all of those and the support that they need for those. I think that's about it. The other two linked documents are the ones that you already saw at the last board meeting. From now on, the process will be that we recertify this plan with any changes that we need. And the recertification process requires that we provide the state with board comments related to returning to school from the previous meeting. So we'll collect the comments from tonight that were related to returning to school in person. And then also we'll be showing you the attendance data for students at the next meeting for the recertification process. And those will be two of the new components that will continue on then until the e-calls are no longer required by the state. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Is the extended COVID learning plan certifications due even if we return to all in-person instruction?
So that's a good question. Currently, the guidance is that they are due until further notice. I suspect that there will be a point at which we don't have to do them anymore, but I don't know what that point is yet, and Oakland Schools has not provided guidance on that yet.
Is it tied at all to the state of emergency declared by the governor, or is it just open-ended?
Right now, it's just open-ended. It's strange because all of the different rating systems, they don't really match each other from different agencies. And this one doesn't really either. It's just kind of this open-ended edict to turn in these things every month. But I suspect when most schools are back in session in person, they'll end this. But I don't have any real evidence for that. So that's just what I think will happen.
You know, as we start to head into October, we're going to see some neighboring districts start to phase back into in-person. My husband has like a regular flu, and people got wind at work, and it started a rumor that he, that said, don't come, stay away. And he's like, I just have a sore throat. Like, I'm not. So it's going to be very difficult with flu season to delineate. But I think at the same time, depending, the Oakland Health Department on Friday did give us a metrics as well as kind of a flow chart of how do schools decide if they return to in-person learning. I think as we see neighboring districts go back, it's going to be a conversation that we're going to have to continuously revisit. The same way as with other subjects have come up when other schools have returned to certain activities. So I think it's something we have to be ready for. One thing that we're looking into, but we're not at that point. It's still I still feel it's really premature, but at some point it will be to resurvey everyone and see where everyone's feeling and comfort based on the data as well. So more to come on that in the next couple weeks in terms of how do we test the water and see where everyone's comfort level is at.
I did, right before the meeting today, I was reading an article that just came out in I think it's the Bridge magazine, or bridgemichigan.com, that talked about the number of K-12 COVID cases tripling in the 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So, and of course, the university is going up by 60%. So.
Agreed.
That's my one comment for tonight.
U of M canceled spring break. They don't
Really?
want students coming back to infect each other.
Who canceled spring break?
University of Michigan and a bunch of other universities across the country, actually.
Huh.
We're going to have a vaccine in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think I just want to encourage. I know you're paying close attention, and as a board member, encourage Dr. Bazzi and the administration to pay attention to what data might be coming from schools that have reopened, and the ones that have not experienced COVID outbreaks and the ones that have, and what each of them has to the extent that you're able to gather it, what each of those what those successful and quote unquote unsuccessful districts have done, because I think that'll be important information as we create a plan for eventually going back.
I don't know if you guys have all seen this, but have you seen the state of Michigan is releasing on a weekly basis the number of COVID cases in K-12 buildings? I'm sure admin has, but I thought that was interesting to track it and watch what's going on.
Yeah, we've been watching public schools and private schools because they're behaving very differently with their returns. The data is a little tricky with the private schools because they're not necessarily reporting them the same way. But we have lots of contacts at private schools, so we're definitely keeping an eye on how that's working and not working for different buildings and districts.
Is there a motion to approve Ferndale Public Schools extended COVID-19 learning plan overview?
I move.
Moved by Jackie, seconded by
Second.
I think Nan was first. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Kermuller,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
With 6 yes votes, item 6.7, the Ferndale Schools extended COVID-19 learning plan overview is approved, which brings us to section 7 of the agenda, informational items, 7.1, investment statement.
Nancy, you want me to take this or do you got it?
Oh, you can go ahead, or if you want me to, whatever.
No, this is yours. You're the money person. 53 million, all you.
Okay, so if you remember back in the late spring, we put forth a proposal to have MyLAF manage the investments that of the money that we received for the 2020 bond. So they went forward in August and made the first series of investments based on what our preliminary draw schedule. So this is just the first statement that we've received showing those investments and showing where they've placed those dollars for us.
So basically, it's a easy way for us to make a little bit of interest off the money while we're waiting to actually execute some of the bond projects. Very safe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is just a parking place until we start paying out on bond projects, right?
Correct. Yep.
Correct. We've used a little bit of the money, but that's all. It was all for the preliminary work, the auditor's work, the underwriter, the attorneys, those types of things, just on getting the sale of the bonds.
All right.
All right. Item 7.2, the budget to actual report.
So again, each month, Nancy provides this to us as, sorry, I have to get, provides us the budget to actual report. Again, just a check and balance on spending at this point. A little bit of variance. We're a little bit behind on spending as it relates to last year, which is expected. With the buildings being empty for a large portion of the day or at a really reduced capacity. There is some variance that Nancy does explain, but things are looking good in terms of ensuring that we're not overspending at this point in the school year. News from Lansing, it looks relatively good. As long as they don't pull a switcheroo like they did in the spring where you took a cut, but you got the money, and that was just it was a mess, to say the least. But hopefully right now the word is that we will not be facing cuts for this year. So if you can remember, we budgeted for $350 per pupil loss, and starting with a deficit of about 1.2 million. That would completely be washed out if we were actually, in fact, not cut at all. So let's hope that by we have to have a budget. What's the date by, Nancy? We have to have one by October 1st?
Correct.
Yeah. So by October 1st, we'll know for sure, because that's when they're required by law to get us a budget. But let's continue to put the pressure on our representatives and senators, which we have great ones in Senator Moss and Representative Wittenberg, to ensure that there's no cuts to public education.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. That takes us to item 8, consideration of any pulled consent agenda items, of which there were none. Our next special board meeting is a committee of the whole meeting, and it's scheduled for October 5th, 2020. And our next regular board meeting is Monday, October 19th, 2020. That brings us to the Eagles' Points of Pride for this month.
I'll go first. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Jackie, go ahead.
So first, I just want to extend my condolences and well wishes to our neighboring district, Oak Park High School, for the students who were tragically killed and injured seriously in the car accident. Just sending well wishes, like I said, and condolences to the families and the students and the staff and the whole community over in Oak Park. And second, I just want to say, even though it was a short window, I know that the student athletes have appreciated the opportunity to play their sports in the fall. My son is on the tennis team, and I can even see the mood change in him being able to just get out, get some fresh air, interact with his classmates and his fellow teammates. And it's really done a lot for my child. So I can imagine that many of the other students have benefited from having this short window just to be outside, and even indoor activities, just being safe and socially distancing.
Thank you, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go. As a first year, third grade teacher, I am feeling the crushing stress of teaching in this new environment and just trying so hard to connect with our students in a way. And I can hear stories from my own son and from the other kids. And man, our teachers, they are working so hard and they are doing such a good job. And I am just incredibly impressed and in awe, as I always have been, by how wonderful they are. So if anyone who's listening here has a chance, write your kid's teacher a love letter. Tell them that you appreciate them. It will do so much to buoy their spirits.
That's awesome. I'd be happy to go next. Yeah, I just wanted to share what Jackie said about condolences to Oak Park, and my heart was heavy when I saw that in the news about that fatal car accident. And also, I just want to apologize that my inarticulate phrasing about action items that the equity task force would work on versus other things. That was really just my way of thinking about the board's work too, because we actually don't do anything. We don't actually take any direct action ourselves on anything that happens in the school district. We're always acting through others, and we obviously provide input and make decisions, but we do not do the work of the district ourselves. So just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Jim.
I had to find my unmute button. I can go next. So I think we're starting, my kids said week 4 of school, and I kind of want to piggyback on what Nan said, is seeing this in action now for going into our 4th week. I just have to say how impressed and thankful I am that the kids have a schedule that they follow every single day. Having 2 freshmen this year, they get up, they do their brain body activity. They take the dogs, never had so many walks, but they're getting outside, they're moving. Then they're ready for their class at 10 and they're on it. I'm just so impressed that they have a schedule that they can follow that's easy. They can make it through the day. They're doing their homework. They're following up with their teachers. And having an easy to monitor schedule is just really making this a workable school year. So again, just thank you for an impressive plan that's actually working as best as it can for these kids. And I talk to other people from other districts, and they're having a really rough time right now. So seeing the kids actually work it and thrive, and they understand, even if we went back to school right now, it wouldn't be the same, but this is not so bad. It's pretty good. They like it. So again, thanks to all the teachers and administrators and everyone that's making this actually work for the kids. So that's my thanks.
I've had the opportunity over the last couple of weeks to be in Colorado, Upper Michigan, staying with people who have close ties to Florida. And I've listened to some of the problems that they've been facing, trying to teach their kids. And I just am very thankful every day that I live in Ferndale, and that we have, and maybe it is because it's a small district and we can tweak things as we go, but we sure do seem to be able to address the needs of kids a whole lot better than the districts that I've been reading about, listening to the news about over the last 3 weeks that I've been out of state or outstate listening to. It's been nice to say, gosh, we don't have that problem in Ferndale. Gosh, we have all of our kids have access to the internet. Gosh, our kids all have some kind of device. We don't have that problem. So I know I sound annoying to the people that do have those problems, but we don't, and I'm happy for that. So thank you, Ferndale.
Yeah, as my point of pride, I'd just like to acknowledge all the continued hard work from the administration and the teachers, and to reflect similarly to what Jen said. You know, my kids have taken really well to having a schedule, and even the 6th grader, I couldn't believe it when she said she liked all her teachers right off the bat. So it's impressive to win kids over electronically, I think, and start to develop a relationship that quickly. I recognize that there's a great variance, and that this is a continued struggle for a lot of families. And it's not that we don't have our struggles as a family, sharing space as we try to work and learn within earshot of each other. So I just I'm grateful for all the families and students that are giving it their very best effort to make it work. And like I said at the beginning, grateful for the continued work of the administration and teachers.
So I echo what Jackie said. I did speak with Oak Park Superintendent and offered our condolences this weekend. Student loss of life is no parent should have to bury their child, and certainly they're in our thoughts during this difficult time. So I echo everyone's statement on the staff, administrators, community, everybody really working hard during an odd way, a new way though. There's certainly some new aspects of online learning that we'll certainly keep that have been beneficial to students, but certainly, thankful to the staff and the hard work that really is everyone's doing everything that they can to make this as smooth as possible for our families. So thank you to that. And then my shout out is proud aunt. My nephew is 20 years old and has his first interview for medical school, and my sister raised him as a single parent, and to see how happy she was today, via FaceTime, as he told us all at the same time. I have to give them, he told me not to say anything, but I figured my family won't hear it in Ferndale, so you guys don't say anything. But I'm too excited for him not to share.
Wait, they're not watching the Zoom recordings?
I know some uncles who watch him every now and then because I'll get a comment here and there, but I don't think my nephew is at 20 years old. Probably not.
Oh, I hope not.
Me too.
All right, well, thank you all. And with that, our meeting tonight is adjourned at 9:01 p.m.
All right.
Good night.
Oh, I forgot to say that I deleted my Facebook account, so I didn't unfriend anybody in particular, but I can't justify being monetized in service of the Facebook Corporation.
Yeah.
Understood.
Fair enough. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.